Great. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Eisner Prize Fellowship Showcase and Info Session. My name is Chelsea Mason, and I'm the Director of External Relations at the Eisner Foundation. Before we begin, a few notes. First, captions are available for this session and can be enabled by clicking the closed captions button at the bottom of your screen. Second, we'll be leaving plenty of time for questions. Please feel free to drop them in the Q&A box. You may have to click the more button at the bottom of your screen to access that Q&A box, and we'll get to them at the end. Finally, the session is being recorded and it will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. You will receive a link to that video once it is available in a follow-up email. You can also visit our website, eisnerfoundation.org, for all the details on the Eisner Prize Fellowship, our grant-making programs, and we invite you to join us on social media for the latest news, updates from our partners, and celebrations of how intergenerational connections make our communities stronger. Today's session is intentionally being held during Global Intergenerational Week. It's an international celebration of intergenerational connection, programs, and the people and organizations that support them, held at the end of every April. The Eisner Foundation and Generations United are proud to be U.S. country leads for this campaign. We represent one of 14 countries serving as official leaders for this effort, though there are celebrations happening all over the world. You can see the list of country leads here. If you're not already, you too can be part of Global Intergenerational Week by connecting with people of other generations and sharing your stories. You can learn more and get involved at generationsworkingtogether.org. And even though there are just a few days left during Global Intergenerational Week, there's still a lot of virtual events that you can join. And I'll shout out in particular, Changemakers and Aging's kickoff event on Thursday for students who are interested in careers connected to aging, which our current fellows, Maya and Ariel, have organized. The registration link will be dropped in the chat. And now, to kick us off, I'm pleased to introduce the CEO of the Eisner Foundation, Trent Stamp.
Thanks, Chelsea. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Hope you're having a great day. Today, we are excited to showcase the incredible work of our third cohort of Eisner Prize Fellows and to share our plans for the next cohort. But first, I want to give you a quick introduction to the Eisner Foundation and to our Eisner Prize Fellowship program. For those of you who are new to the Eisner Foundation, we have supported intergenerational programming in Los Angeles County and New York City for about a decade. The Eisner Foundation is celebrating our 30th anniversary this year, and for the past 10 years, we've exclusively focused on those intergenerational efforts. This resulted from a long history of supporting organizations working with children, and later, organizations working with older adults. Over the years, we have noticed something special. Programs that put these two groups together, instead of serving them separately, are more efficient, more effective, and more empowering for all involved. Participants stop being passive recipients of services, and they instead actively serve each other. They form relationships that continue and grow outside regular programming times, and they change the way they think about other generations, finding value in their experiences. So in 2015, we made the choice here at the Eisner Foundation to become the first, and as far as we know, still the only US-based funder exclusively supporting intergenerational programs. Today, we're proud to support a range of incredible organizations doing intergenerational work that makes our society and our communities stronger. From 2011 to 2022, the Eisner Foundation honored people and organizations doing exceptional intergenerational work across the country with our Eisner Prize for Intergenerational Excellence. We're extremely proud of our Eisner Prize winners, which include organizations we know you're familiar with, like Generations United, Bridge Meadows, and CoGenerate. But now, we're looking to support those we hope will be the next leaders of our field. In 2023, the Eisner Foundation transitioned to the Eisner Prize Fellowship program to support emerging intergenerational leaders by providing financial resources, networking opportunities, and the prestige of the Eisner Prize to individuals with new ideas and new perspectives that will propel our field forward. And now we're going to hear from our current Eisner Prize Fellows. For the last 10 months, they've been hard at work developing and executing their intergenerational projects, and we're excited to share their progress with you as they enter the final 2 months of their one-year Eisner Prize Fellowship. Chelsea?
Thank you, Trent. All right. First, I am pleased to introduce Marissa Byrne, the Associate Director of Education at the University of Vermont Center on Aging. For the fellowship, Marissa launched Vermont Youth Leaders in Aging, which places Vermont high schoolers in long-term, multi-generational volunteer groups at senior living and residential care communities. Over to you, Marissa.
Thank you so much, Chelsea. It's wonderful to be with all of you and to have the opportunity to speak about the pilot Vermont Youth Leaders in Aging program, or VILA, launched this year with the generous support of the Eisner Foundation. Vermont Youth Leaders in Aging is an intergenerational volunteer program bringing together older Vermonters, University of Vermont students, and high school students from across 5 Vermont counties with the goal of building intergenerational community while inspiring a lifelong love of working with older adults. And I've had the privilege of developing VILA as an Eisner Prize Fellow and in my role as Associate Director of Education at the University of Vermont Center on Aging. I was inspired to develop VILA because I kept hearing from faculty that their students often don't think about specializing in geriatrics, and it's because of a lack of exposure. This theme was reflected in the applications for over 100 high school students who applied to be part of this first cohort of VILA. One student wrote in her application, "For years, I've been thinking about a career with older adults. But as a teen, I've just never known where to start or find the opportunity to see if it's a right fit for me." So VILA creates a new model for responding to this gap and introducing students to the joy of intergenerational connection early. So how does it work? The program started in September with an orientation on the UVM campus, which included introductions from UVM student facilitators, as well as education around Alzheimer's and dementia and ageism, and discussion around strategies to support intergenerational connection. Then, beginning in October, our initial cohort of 45 high school students started spending time at their host organizations, 7 senior living, assisted living, and nursing care communities across Vermont. They met twice a month in activity and intergenerational discussion groups that have been led by a team of 15 undergraduate and graduate student facilitators connecting through a range of activities from Vermont trivia to learning a resident's favorite holiday Chex Mix recipe, building on the interests of the group members. So for example, in this top photo, we can see a UVM public health student leading the group in an Irish step dancing session and discussion around family heritage and culture. And the photo below, there's a resident teaching students her signature style of drawing, and we can see the exchange of expertise across generations. High school students have also been participating in career exploration Zoom calls throughout the year, pairing their intergenerational relationship building experience with opportunities to learn about a broad range of careers in aging, including geriatric medicine, occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech language pathology, and more. And now, believe it or not, we're getting toward the end of the school year and marking the end of the school year with celebrations at each of these individual host organizations, as well as an upcoming celebration for the whole cohort at UVM next month. 2 of the intergenerational groups had their final meetings this past weekend, and I got to hear from students and residents about what this experience of spending time together has been meaning to them. So I wanted to share a couple of the key reflections that came up. One is that students are finding that the way that they think and feel about aging has been changing through the relationships that they're building. One student wrote, "Not only is it fun, but I feel like there are a lot of people my age who have a negative view of older people. We need to change that." Students and residents have also been getting so much more comfortable spending time together and communicating with each other. This card says it takes time, but everyone is capable of becoming comfortable and creating community with others of different generations. Everyone across the board has noticed that they have more in common than they could have possibly anticipated. This resident wrote, "If you listen, you will see how much we are all alike." And residents have also shared that the time with students has brought them so much hope and joy. Students learn from residents' advice, wisdom, life experiences, and also have been having a lot of fun together and enjoying a lot of laughter. So this was one of my favorite comments. A student shared, "Something that I've learned is that the older you get, the funnier your jokes are." So students and residents really do look forward to seeing each other. They're showing up for each other with so much care, and they want to keep seeing each other. We can see on this card here, "I wish to see you all again soon." And it shows every visit. In one group, there's a resident who each time that she shows up, there are students saving seats for her. There are students cheering when she enters the room, and vice versa. She shows them how much she looks forward to seeing them and gives them a hug every time they leave. So I've been excited to find that students are already asking if they can continue with the program next year, often feeling really connected with their host organizations and wanting to keep deepening their relationships there. One graduating high school student is actually coming to UVM next year, and she's asked if she might be able to stay connected as a facilitator. So this, in a way, the program is already set up for longevity with opportunities for continued and expanded involvement throughout high school and beyond. And I'm eager to keep learning more about the program's impact through a post-program survey next month, and as we keep in touch with students over the years. I'd welcome you to keep in touch as well if you'd like to hear about what we learned about the impact of VILA. So please feel free to visit the UVM Center on Aging website or reach out, and I'd be more than happy to connect. Thank you again to the Eisner Foundation for this incredible opportunity.
Thank you, Marissa. Right, up next, I'd like to introduce Dr. Abdul Hamid Bashir, known to us as Kish. He is the director of the West African Community Center in Philadelphia. And for the fellowship, Kish built opportunities for intergenerational connection across his entire organization. And in particular, through Kin Connect Circles, a program that strengthens emotional bonds, cultural identity, and system navigation among grand families and kin care families. Over to you, Kish.
Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Thank you very much. As has been said, my name is Dr. Bashir, the Director of West African Community Center. The West African Community Center is a predominantly immigrant community based in Philadelphia, mostly from West African countries, but then we have African Americans in there, we have some Asians in there, but predominantly West Africans. The center had this project on kinship families where older adults are taking care of kids that are not their biological kids. But then the Eisner Foundation, really helped us to expand this project beyond and above what we used to do. So our project with the Eisner Foundation is Kin Connect, which is bridging generations, building community, a culturally rooted intergenerational initiative connecting children, teens, and older adults through shared stories, wellness conversations, and hands-on activities. The project is in categories. We have conversation circles, we have weekend respite programs, we have men's breakfast, bringing together older members of the community and younger ones who are not necessarily, bonded through family. Any member of the community is welcome to come in to share their experiences, older ones and then the younger ones. It's also a mentorship center space where older adults are valued as teachers, listeners, and culture bearers. Next slide, please. So the program overview is, it serves our older adults seeking connection and meaningful engagement. It also serves children ages 5 and above, our teenage boys who are looking for mentorship, wellness support, and positive male role models, and families and community members across cultures. How it works is that we have monthly conversation circles centered on shared themes and lived experiences. We also have weekend respite sessions where we have almost 120 kids that come every Saturday and Sunday throughout the year to meet older adults to help them with different things in life. The men's breakfast gathering is where teenage males meet older men for honest mental health conversations. They're simple relationship-centered format that we believe community centers and schools or fit spaces can implement. Excuse me. Why it matters is that it honors elders as cultural knowledge holders. It also creates belonging across generations. It supports emotional well-being and social connection. It builds practical bridges between African and American cultural experiences. And the reason why this is important is that we realize that most of our immigrants, when they come in, after a couple of years and they have kids here, there is a cultural disconnect between them and the kids. The languages are different, the culture is different, the background is different. So we try as much as possible to see how well we can bridge this gap so that the kids will not feel, outside when they are at home and they don't feel outside when they are outside. They belong to both worlds of their parents and then the American culture that they find themselves in. Next slide, please. So our monthly conversation circles center on some of these themes: language and storytelling across generations, food traditions and family recipes, clothing, identity and self-expression, AI and technology in daily life, American culture and African culture in conversation. The session format is monthly facilitated circle where we meet once a month, but for the respite with the younger kids, it's always every weekend throughout the year. We have opening prompt and personal reflections. There is story sharing and cultural exchange. Sometimes we have guest speakers or artists to help us with some demonstrations. The expected outcomes are always greater trust and understanding across age groups, cultural pride and curiosity, reduced loneliness and stronger peer support, more confidence discussing technology and modern change. So this aspect is when we realize that our older adults are not that tech savvy, and these younger ones are very well versed in the technology. So we have a mini tech library where the younger ones help the older ones in terms of navigating emails, reading prescriptions online, checking their health online. So it really helped the older people in navigating these tech issues, and then a living archive of stories, memories, and local wisdom. Next slide, please. So for the weekend respite program, I'm just going to go through it quickly. Ages 5 and above. We even have college students with us that come every weekend. They come to do their homeworks. They come to, spend time, with each other, play games, read, learn. But at the same time, we have adults on site all the time to be with them. So sometimes groups of 10 or 15 or 20 with 1 or 2 adults, just engaging them and then, having this both formal and informal activities. The benefit is that it gives caregivers short respite windows. So parents or caregivers can have 4 to 5 hours, on a Saturday and Sunday to just go and do their own stuff, whereby their kids have a place where they can come to and then have quality time, well supervised. It also reduces isolation for older adults. We have older people in their 70s that come to the center to engage these young people, and that also gives them some engagement and not being isolated at home. It creates a calm, welcoming weekend routine. It builds patience, empathy, and joy in children. So the implementation is hosted in schools, community centers, or senior spaces. They can do that. And some other centers in our community have started to replicate that. Next slide, please. So the men's breakfast, as I said earlier on, is to bring the younger men with the older men so that these younger men can learn from the experiences of these older men. And of course, we have a lot of challenges, as a community, immigrant community, and the lived experiences of the older ones will help these younger ones to be able to find the right steps to take in the community. So there's peer and mentor discussion. The topics are stress, identity, school, confidence, future goals. It's respectful, stigma reducing conversation norms. So we know it's a mental health program, and we didn't want to call it mental health because some people might feel a bit, what's wrong with me? So we'll call it just men's breakfast. Come and let's eat, let's have breakfast. And that's how we're able to have these conversations. So the purpose is create a trusted male-centered space, normalize asking for help, connect youth with caring older role models, strengthen intergenerational accountability. And the potential outcomes have been, we've seen improved emotional expression, we've seen lower isolation, we've seen stronger mentorship bonds, healthier coping skills. Actually, it moved from a breakfast to even a dinner now. The dinner is now Mondays and Thursdays. And yesterday, we had one dinner on Sunday with the older adults. So thank you very much for the Eisner Foundation for this wonderful help. It really, really, give us more tools and more resources to expand, this project. We were serving just few people, but with this, foundation and the help that came through with this fellowship, we served, the metrics are high. 120 kids previously, 15 kids, but now we're 720 kids. We had 15 families in the beginning. We are now serving 30 families due to this, this fellowship. Thank you very much. I end here.
Thank you, Kish. All right, up next, we have Serena Bien, a peace builder, storyteller, and community weaver who previously served as special advisor in design and innovation to U.S. Surgeon General Vivek Murthy. During the fellowship, Serena has designed a framework to cultivate intergenerational collaboration in pro-democracy and peace-building movements in the U.S. Over to you, Serena.
Thanks, Chelsea. So, hi everyone, my name is Serena, and I'm so grateful for this chance to share with you what I got up to this past year through the Eisner Prize Fellowship. And to do that, I'll just first off and share what brought me into this work of intergenerational peace building. So I had previously spent a couple years working for the former U.S. Surgeon General, Dr. Vivek Murthy, on the public health crisis of loneliness and social isolation. And when I was in that office during the height of COVID, I really started getting interested in the work of conflict transformation and looking at additional reasons why our communities are so isolated and fractured as well. And it really brought me to these questions of violence and how our country and communities across the world are wrapped up in conflicts that span multiple generations. And because of that, we also need generational solutions to really supporting our efforts at democracy. And so that's what really brought me into this work of creating intentional intergenerational approaches to forwarding our peace and democracy movements. So my project really focused on strengthening the intergenerational infrastructure across our U.S. peace and democracy movement. So really looking at the relational fabric and quality of relationships across people, elders and youngers, that are working on supporting our peace and democracy movements. Why this? Why now? Well, protecting democracy has never been more important and urgent. And in this moment, our peace movements are thankfully not starting from scratch. They're part of a much longer lineage. Deepening intergenerational connection allows us to learn from the wisdom of our past struggles, from the civil rights movement to the women's rights movement, environmental justice, gay rights. We can learn and move so much more strategically when we realize that we're not alone in this moment of a lot of uncertainty. At the same time, I saw and noticed that there was a huge wave of burnout, isolation, exhaustion, despair from the younger organizers, activists, peace builders out there today. That is a huge trend happening across our movement spaces, and they're seeking wisdom and people who have walked this path before. And at the same time, we have so many elders who carry such deep wisdom and experience from these previous social movements, who have this hard-earned wisdom, yet also are facing isolation and lacking of practical care and support. And so I basically was building out this ecosystem of various experiments through this project. And we focused on three main buckets. So first, narrative strategy. I collaborated with this amazing group called the National Council of Elders, a group of about 40 or so civil rights movement elders who are continuing to just forward and strengthen the connection with younger organizers today. And together we launched a project called Begin Again, which is a storytelling project talking about and sharing stories across the country of intergenerational resilience and collaboration across our peace building movements. And we have about 9 webinars that are planned over the course of the next year and a half, 2 of which have already taken place. We also focused on intergenerational leadership development, so bringing together the elders and younger people who are already really activated around needing to strengthen intergenerational solidarity across their local communities. And we recently gathered in North Carolina for a leadership development retreat, which was really beautiful and successful. And then I focused on launching and supporting local intergenerational experiments. And we identified 5 cities where we hosted and piloted intergenerational gatherings, conversations, and relationships amongst younger and elder organizers. Some additional experiments we tried out and are continuing to try out is this notion of elders in residence, where we were wanting to advance the idea of bringing in social movement elders into organizations where younger organizers are, and to have paid roles and opportunities for them to really contribute their ideas and relationships. We participated also in intergenerational pilgrimages to the one right there is to Montgomery, Alabama, a site of so much civil rights resistance and leadership. Here in Oakland, California, I hosted in collaboration with various elders 5 intergenerational dinners focusing on a specific question, such as what in your life has prepared you for this moment of struggle we're in? And then launched Begin Again Circles, which in collaboration with the Storytelling Project, trying to encourage local circles across the country to form to promote this kind of collaboration. And on April 4th of this past month, we also gathered at New York City at a famous church, which is where Dr. King gave his famous Beyond Vietnam speech at Riverside Church, to host an intergenerational storytelling gathering of movement elders and younger organizers to reflect and share personal stories about when in your life have you had to totally begin again in your movement work. And that was really beautiful. And the webinar is actually happening today to share about this story. So in terms of future plans, I'm going to keep expanding the Begin Again narrative project. We have 8 more webinars through August of 2027 of next year. And part of this is trying to host more local Begin Again conversation circles across the country to bring local organizers and activists together intergenerationally. And also my hope at the end of this year is to compile the various experiments that were launched over this last year into a toolkit to share out these best practices. I think I'm at time, so I'll pause there and just say thank you so much to the Eisner Foundation for this support, and so looking forward to continuing this work. Thank you.
Thank you, Serena. Right, up next, we have Ariel Galinsky, the Chief Executive Officer and co-founder of the Legacy Project. Ariel launched the Intergenerational Changemakers Fellowship, connecting more than 40 older and younger adults across 6 cities in the US to share stories, publish a book, and execute a civic engagement project in their community. Over to you, Ariel.
Thanks, Chelsea. Hi, everyone. My name is Ariel Galinsky. It is such a pleasure to get to share a little bit about the work of the Legacy Project, and specifically about the Changemakers Fellowship that we were able to pursue this year because of the support of the Eisner Foundation. And just want to thank Chelsea Trent, the Eisner Foundation, and this wonderful cohort, because I think we were really able to grow over this past year. So the project that I launched this past year was the Intergenerational Changemakers Fellowship. And before I get into that, I wanted to share a little bit about what the Legacy Project is more broadly and how that project fit into the larger body of work that we do. So TO Legacy Project, younger and older adults for multi-generational friendships and storytelling. Our model is we connect younger and olders to co-create and co-interview one another to create a book with their stories. It's very much bi-directional, meaning that both the youngers and olders have the opportunity to interview and write about each other's narratives. And we're primarily based on college and high school campuses. And for me, this work really started from a place of loss after having a very close relationship with my own grandfathers at a younger age and wanting to better learn the stories of older adults in the community in which I grew up. That's where the Legacy Project really got its roots. And then I met my two co-founders, Wanda and Katie, and we shared this joint passion, which led us to creating the Legacy Project a number of years ago. And now we're here today. So for the project, the impetus behind this is that many of the multi-generational friendships and collaborations that I've had in my own life, I have felt that we have been able to bring differing perspectives to the table to be able to work towards a project in our community that we feel are aligned in our interests, but we both bring different tools and perspectives to being able to advocate and further that change. And yet we had never tried this in the Legacy Project. We've always been based on the interviewing and storytelling, but without the action component of really launching a civic engagement project in the community. And so the question that I went into this fellowship with was, how might we transform intergenerational connection into meaningful community-driven action? And the way in which this really precipitated was through this fellowship where we connected younger and older adults. We got applications from all across the country, from 6 different cities, East Coast to West Coast, and had the opportunity to really cultivate this cohort of passionate younger and older changemakers who wanted to work together, both on their local level and on the national level, to be able to create change. So how the program was structured, and I'll get into it a little bit more, is that we started in November and we're wrapping up actually right now in the April-May timeframe. Part of the project was focused on storytelling and interviewing, so our normal Legacy Project program. And then the second part of the project was focused on creating something in the community that both the younger and older pair were passionate about or interested in, and launching a civic engagement project with a stipend that they had to support them. So this is an overview of the timeline. I'm a visual person, so maybe this helps. So throughout November and February is when the interview and storytelling and writing process happened. All of our youngers and olders interviewed one another, wrote about each other's stories, utilizing some of the Legacy Project materials, and all of them have submitted their narratives that are going to then be published in a book. One of our pairs, one of the younger participants, actually created the cover art, and we, as a community, we decided on the name and the title of the book. So that will be published this summer, which is very exciting. And then in March, we transitioned to the Civic Engagement Project piece, where the younger and older pairs had the opportunity to choose something that they were both interested and aligned in, and to plan out a project utilizing the resources that we provided them to be able to launch that in their community. And I'll share a little bit about what those projects were, and there was massive variability, which was quite cool to see. I'll also say throughout each of these months, we hosted cohort sessions where we brought all of the fellows together virtually and brought in guest speakers to bring in highlights from highlights in terms of some of the great work that's happening outside of this space. And a prior Eisner Prize Fellow actually joined Marge. So thanks, Marge. So here's a little bit of then some photos from our different parts of our project, the storytelling and writing process. Some of our pairs met in person, some of our pairs met virtually. For some of them, that kind of transitioned back and forth. But each of the visits, they submitted photos, which was always a highlight for me to see throughout the week. Then we went to the Civic Engagement Project. So this was what was happening in March and April timeframe. I put a kind of a smattering of some of the projects. This is not comprehensive, but I wanted everyone to see kind of the extent by which and the versatility by which some of our pairs took their projects based on their shared interests. So there's a number of pairs that did projects around art or will be doing projects around art. We have Cleve and Nick, who's doing a project around children's literacy and doing a workshop workshop on that because they've both found that that was a passion of theirs. We have Kimberly and Nancy who are actually joining a webinar with us tonight with the Gray Panthers talking about their approach to change making. And they had a webinar that they did together about how to cultivate change as an intergenerational pair. So there's been so much wonderful projects that has been taken on by these pairs. And I'm excited to see some of these collaborations continue actually far past the fellowship. And then part three, which is the part we have not got to yet. So as we wrap out the projects this month, throughout the month of May, we're going to be doing interviews one-on-one with each of the pairs, and we're going to be cultivating and creating a report, an intergenerational changemakers atlas, if you will, that we hope can serve as a model, a national model for how we can connect generations through storytelling and civic action. So that will be coming out late summer, early fall, and then we'll be doing a big showcase highlighting some of the stories of our pairs, highlighting the findings of the report this fall, which I'm really excited about. And then the book will also be published this summer with all of the stories and narratives from our younger and older matches. So I'm really looking forward to that. And that is the end of my presentation. Thank you so much to Chelsea, Trent, again, and the Eisner Foundation. Would love to stay in touch. If you ever want to talk about intergenerational collaboration, would love to work with you. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Ariel. And last but certainly not least, we have Maya Joshi, the founder and executive director of Lifting Hearts with the Arts. For the fellowship, Maya launched Generation Mosaic, an intergenerational initiative that brings together undergrad and grad students and older adults in college towns across the country. Over to you, Maya.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chelsea. So my name is Maya Joshi, and I will be talking about Generation Mosaic, which is my Eisner Prize Fellowship project. Oops. So for context, Generation Mosaic sits within Lifting Hearts with the Arts, which is a nonprofit that I started back in April of 2020. So we just passed our 6th-year anniversary, which was exciting. And our main mission is to connect generations through arts-based activities. And the way this started was really inspired based on my relationship with my grandparents growing up, because I feel like the moments in which I began to see them as like real people and learn about their life experiences and see them as people outside of just like caretakers or older adults in my life was really at the dinner table when we were trying to do these different art projects together. So considering we started during COVID, a lot of our programming was virtual, where we paired older and younger participants together based on mutual interests. Like the first person I was matched with was because we're both Cubs fans and from Chicago, so we had a lot to talk about in that sense. And then we transitioned towards a hybrid model, and most of our work is now fully in person. We have a program called Cogen Creations, which is based in Chicago, that aims to connect high schools with local senior living communities. And really the idea for Generation Mosaic kind of came from the fact that me, alongside all of our volunteers, were graduating from high school and then moving to college, where we were away from our families for the first time for many of us. And we also, in Lifting Hearts with the Arts, had mostly just partnered with long-term senior care communities, like assisted or independent living places. And we really hadn't worked with older adults living independently at home. So the goal of Generation Mosaic was to kind of combine both of those elements as well. Whoops. So these are some photos of Lifting Hearts with the Arts. You can kind of see our mix of activities. We used to have like virtual concerts during COVID, and then since then have transitioned to more in-person arts-based activities. And so Generation Mosaic is a 6 to 10 week program. This kind of depends based on if a school is on a quarter or semester system. And during this fellowship year, we piloted the program at 3 universities: Northwestern, DePaul, and University of Vermont. We have over 90 participants across all 3 schools, and a really interesting mix of students. So we have some medical students, mostly undergrads, who are interested in studying everything from journalism to psychology. And then we work with a nonprofit called Green Star Movement to create a final mosaic piece. And so the photo on the bottom is actually one of our first sessions through the Northwestern program. So what makes Generation Mosaic different from our previous work is that each week kind of focuses on a different kind of art. So really like leaning into the idea that art moves just beyond like drawing and painting, but also includes like literary arts and cooking. So we really wanted each session to focus on something different. And then leaning into this metaphor of what a mosaic actually is, we wanted participants to take away some sort of metaphorical mosaic after each session. So for example, after the performing arts session at some schools, we had participants walk away with a curated Spotify playlist that contained like multi-generational tastes in music. And I will say, ever since Lifting Hearts with the Arts and Generation Mosaic, my Spotify playlists have changed immensely for the better. And then as the session progresses, we wanted to get into deeper discussions with our participants. And then at the very end, bringing back that collaboration with Green Star Movement to create a lasting physical mosaic piece that participants could keep coming back to after the end of the program and, in future years. So we're working with them to create like these 3x5 wall installations that are installed in the campus town or at the universities themselves. So in the future, we're going to try and explore different kinds of mosaic making. So one of the things that I'm really excited about is the idea of designing a mosaic bench that can be put so that we can literally have intergenerational conversations with participants sitting on these benches, as well as expanding to other universities, and then also continuing with our IRB approved study, which we started like just a couple months ago, and expanding to other universities through that, where we're really focusing on examining how forming social connections across generations can improve perceptions on aging. So really the goal is to continue with that as well. And so this is all I have for you. If any of what I shared sound interesting to you, please don't hesitate to reach out with any questions or ideas for collaborations. I would love to hear from you. And just one final thank you to the Eisner Foundation. Aside from just like the financial sponsorship, this has been a truly incredible fellowship opportunity because I got to meet some really cool people like Chelsea and Trent and the rest of the fellows. And then also I really felt like I felt like a family, a part of their family. So thank you.
Thank you, Maya. You are part of our family, as are the rest of all of you. So as we transition into the info session portion of our event, we'll just take a moment to thank all of the Eisner Prize Fellows for their incredible work over this past almost a year. We're so proud of your efforts, and we're so excited to watch you and your programs go further. Thank you very much. So from here, we're excited to talk about our plans for the next cohort of Eisner Prize Fellows and how you can apply. We have a short presentation to share with you and we'll have time for questions at the end. Please drop those questions in the Q&A box, not the chat. It'll make it a lot easier for us to see. And again, we are recording this webinar and we'll send that recording out after this concludes. So let's get started. I'll turn it back over to Trent and he'll kick us off.
Thanks, Chelsea. And thank you to all the fellows for their hard work and their accomplishments. It's easy to get dismayed and disenchanted nowadays. And every time I have the opportunity to interact with these fellows, I am inspired and think there are many better days ahead as they work to bring us together across community. I hope that many of you here today are also joining us as potential applicants for the next round of Eisner Prize Fellows. As you saw from this group, the Eisner Prize Fellowship brings together new leaders working to create innovations in intergenerational connection, and we provide them with the resources, the connections, and the visibility to complete a project over 1 year, and hopefully the tools to continue thriving in our field afterwards. As in past cycles, we do plan to select 5 fellows for the 2026-2027 cohort. Before we go too deep on the logistics of the fellowship, we usually find it useful to establish what exactly we mean by intergenerational programs. To us, the strongest ones always have these things in common. First, they're intentionally designed to encourage interaction between peoples of different ages, usually with people they're not related to. These programs create activities and opportunities for people to engage, share, and get to know each other. As many as of our partners will tell you, It's not enough just to have older people and younger people in the same room. You have to jumpstart the interaction, and then participants can take it from there. Programs that simply serve people of different generations without intentionally facilitating interactions between them typically aren't the strongest intergenerational programs. Second, these types of programs see participants as resources, not passive recipients of services. Even if a program involves one generation helping another, there's still a mutual benefit involved. Everyone contributes in their own way, and everyone benefits. And for those of you looking for inspiration, we do have profiles and videos of our partners showcasing their work on our new website, and we encourage you to explore those. If you're in the early stages of developing intergenerational programming, I would also point you to the amazing resources that our friends and former Eisner Prize winners, Generations United and CoGenerate, have on their websites. We'll drop those links in the chat. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to Chelsea so she can go over the application process and the timeline and the plans for the coming year. Chelsea?
Thank you, Trent, and thanks all of you for bearing with us for a moment while PowerPoint restarted itself. So now I'm going to go through the criteria and the application process for the fellowship. Again, please use the Q&A box if you would like to submit questions as we go. The Eisner Prize Fellowship is designed to incubate a defined project during the fellowship year. It includes a total of $50,000, $10,000 for the fellow to use as a stipend, and $40,000 to support their project. The fellows will gather regularly throughout the year over Zoom to share their progress and learn from each other and experts in our field. There will also be an in-person opportunity to connect during a retreat in Los Angeles, August 10th through 13th. Expenses for the fellows will be covered. The virtual meetings throughout the year will be co-created with the fellows so that they're tailored to their backgrounds and projects. The application is open to anyone working to foster intergenerational connection in the United States. Unfortunately, we are not able to support applicants based outside of the US. You must be living in and executing your fellowship project in the United States to be eligible. This does include international students studying here. In years past, fellows have also been required to be affiliated with a 501c3 organization. But for this cycle, we will also be able to accept applicants who are working independently or affiliated with an organization without a 501c3 designation. We're open to a broad range of project proposals, including new programming models, research, or technology, and concepts we haven't even considered. To us, this is a chance to incubate out-of-the-box ideas that bring people of different generations together. However, successful applicants will be those projects who are actively bringing people together during the fellowship year. For those proposing projects with significant technological components in particular, I would just highly suggest thinking about how your project complements or adds value to human connection across generations. Proposals where the primary goal is to create an app or a platform or something similar have not historically been successful. We understand that projects may evolve as the fellowship progresses, so we encourage applicants to think big at this stage in the process. I really challenge you to reach for the now what. Go beyond tech training, storytelling, and other established program models. How can you take them a step further or reimagine them in new contexts? On a related note, we're looking for your idea, not ChatGPT's. An AI tool is usually going to give you something derivative anyway, and we are looking for innovation. While we will be asking for your birth year in the application, there are no age restrictions. All of this is intended to be as open as possible to encourage a wide range of applicants. When you begin the application, you will start by providing some basic contact and demographic information. The questions that follow are designed to get to know you, your interest in intergenerational connections, your successes thus far, and the project you'd like to pursue. The project you propose doesn't have to be fully detailed at this stage, but you should have a clear vision of what you'd like to accomplish within a year and with a budget of $40,000. The questions are linked on the first page of the application, and you can also save your application and return to it later before submitting. Again, with regards to AI, I'm not against someone using AI to help write something. But if you're just copying and pasting, you're running the risk of submitting something inaccurate or including pieces of your prompt. I've already seen this happen this cycle. So at minimum, if you are using AI to help you with this application, please proofread to make sure the proposal reflects you and your idea. There will also be an option to include supplemental materials in 2 places. First, there will be a text box where you can share with us anything you'd like us to know that didn't fit earlier in the application. Feel free to include links to relevant work or extra information that you think would be helpful to us as we review your application in that text box. Second, there will be an option to upload relevant materials. Nothing is required. And due to the hundreds of applications we typically receive, we highly suggest limit the number of supplementary materials you share. We value your time, and we don't want this section to be a burden on you or anyone else. These materials could include a letter from a supervisor or organization leader showing us that your organization supports your potential participation in the fellowship, or evidence of past accomplishments. Again, this part is completely optional. The application itself is open now through May 10th, and finalists will be invited for a short conversation with us later that month, and then we plan to announce our new fellows mid-June. Again, you'll get a follow-up email from us with this recording and a link to the application, and more information is also at eisnerfoundation.org/epfellows. So with that, thank you so much for your interest in the Eisner Prize Fellowship Program. Now we have some time for some questions. If you haven't already, please put them in the Q&A box. We'll see if we've got some in here. We have a handful already. You can find that Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. We'll get to as many as we can, and we're going to prioritize those questions that are applicable to a wide range of potential applicants rather than a specific individual or project. So I'll stop sharing here. And the first question we have from Dr. Gamble: can the fellow choose for the stipend to be redirected to the project execution? That stipend is for you to use as you choose. If you would choose to direct that to the project, I'm not going to stop you, but it is intended to be a stipend for you to use in honor of the work you're putting into this project. Let's see. Tatiana Dandridge asks what counts as overhead expenses not covered by the project stipend of $40K. Trent, would you like to take this one?
I guess I don't really understand the question, with all due respect. As Chelsea just enumerated, we're looking out of a total award of 50,000 that, in most worlds, 10,000 would go to pay for your time, and then the 40,000 would be directed toward completing your project. So in essence, that entire 40,000 is to some degree overhead. It is the opportunity cost and the amount needed to implement your vision to create a project that will resonate with us here at the Eisner Foundation. So we're not going to do a enumerated accounting of your expenditures at the end of the year. We're going to say, with the $40,000, did you create one of these representative projects that we all can be proud of?
Yeah, and to add to that, sometimes, especially at like universities or something, the university will take a percentage as overhead, and we prefer that not to happen. We would prefer that the funds entirely support your project. We have a question: is Puerto Rico eligible? Puerto Rico is part of the United States. Yes, Puerto Rico is eligible. Courtney asks, can you confirm that the fellow must be a new emerging leader rather than an established, experienced leader? Trent, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I mean, this is again, Chelsea gives me all the questions that involve attempting to finesse this in some way or another. These are value judgments, right? I mean, what exactly is a new emerging leader? What exactly is an established leader? We don't necessarily go to an accounting firm that tells us which is which. But we are looking for new voices, and we are looking for people of all ages. So let's not be confused here and say that these are supposed to be young leaders. But with a total project budget here of around $40,000, we're not thinking that we're going to fund, a shared site where you put a preschool inside senior housing on the campus of Dartmouth. But if you had a cool idea for how to build those types of things or make them more accessible or do interesting things, we'd want to hear about that. But new versus emerging versus established, those are in the eyes of the beholder. But we need to recognize that this project budget is not in the six-figure range, and so it does benefit us and your application for this to be a manageable emerging project with a new leader that perhaps we're not as familiar with as others may be.
Yes, and for those of you putting questions in the chat or have raised your hands, please put your questions in the Q&A box. That's where we're going to draw our questions from. Trent, could you talk briefly about the difference between our traditional grant making and the Eisner Prize Fellowship, and if somebody can apply for both at the same time?
They can theoretically. We have an open application process with our traditional grant making, which is intergenerational programs based in New York City or Los Angeles exclusively, where two groups are treated as assets and resources to help each other and to create a community benefit as a whole. Those are exclusively 501c3 organizations who are running a high quality program that works intergenerationally in one of those two communities. And that is a separate application that does not require an invitation of any sort. But if you have a program that meets that criteria, you are welcome to go to the Eisner Foundation website. It should be relatively easy to find how do I apply for a grant, and you can pursue that. This is a different program. This is for those emerging leaders that we talked about who have an idea and who we think an investment in them at this point, whether they have a 501c3 or they're just an individual creating a cool thing, is something that will pay off in the long run by cultivating this type of cohesive, community-driven, intergenerational programming. And we're looking to really kind of invest in a person as opposed to in a program. And that too is a fundamentally different application on our website, which is open now and will close in a few weeks, unlike our regular grant application, which is open 365 days a year and limited to Los Angeles and New York City. This is an attempt for us to find leaders outside those communities. Doesn't mean that we wouldn't invest in organizations in Los Angeles or New York or people, but we really want to have an opportunity to find out about some of the other people that are out there. We have had grantees from the Los Angeles community and from New York City, so don't click off and go, oh my God, I wasted my time. We have had prize winners, fellows. If you're in one of those communities and doing interesting work, we still like to hear from you. But this is also our attempt to go nationwide and learn from some organizations and some people that we wouldn't normally do.
All right, I'm going to go rapid fire through a couple here because we are technically over time, but we do have a lot of questions, so we'll try to get through a few more before we jump off today. So first, if it's a collaborative project, is the stipend split between two fellows? You can apply as a collaborative pair. The funds remain the same. So the $50,000, including that $10,000 stipend, would go to the pair for them to, break up as they see most appropriate. You will have to pick one name to apply under because the application is set up for one individual, but you can apply. Just pick a name between the two of you, pick one, and fill out the rest of the application like it's both of you. Can funds be used to sponsor paid interns within an intergenerational program? You can propose to use these funds however you see fit. If a paid intern is what you feel the best way to use those funds, please have at it. Is there a minimum number of youth and elders engaged in the project required to be considered for selection? No, you can have as many or as few. Just have an idea of why that number is ideal for you. Is there a specific thing you're looking for in regards to selecting the new cohort of fellows? Nope, come on in. Are most of the projects national? If we're working only locally, is that less positive? No, national and local projects both have great value, and we are happy to hear from you if you're working nationally or locally. All right, let's see. Does the funding also include the cost for accessibility services and language services? So if you are proposing a project that you think would benefit from accessibility and language services, that should be part of the budget that the $40,000 goes toward. And then are we open to these projects, including working with older generations who are terminal or end of life? Of course we are. There is value to be had of everybody at all ages and all stages. All right, so with that, I know we didn't get to all of the questions, but we are 3 minutes over. And as we said before, we do respect your time. If you have additional questions, you are welcome to reach out to us at info@eisnerfoundation.org. And we're looking forward to reading your proposals. Thank you again and have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone.